What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, last week was pretty exciting. The return of the CW shows had a bit to do with that. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? Arrow and Flash, both pretty good. Just exciting. Even the Arrow this season has actually been really enjoyable. So, yeah, a lot to look forward to. But before we get to that, of course, we have to look at the second cousin twice removed that needs to just go off and do its own thing on another show because, frankly, coming to the CW has not made it any better, but made the channel seem worse. And that's Supergirl. So, Season 2, Episode 18, Ace Reporter. I wonder what this episode's about. Pretty much just a story of how she gets her reporter job back, because that's what I care about. I don't really care about seeing her be Supergirl, because, frankly, what type of show would that be? When I tune into Supergirl, I want to see stuff about Kara becoming a reporter. I don't care about Supergirl. So, how does this episode start off? Well, I guess in a show where your title is Supergirl, but you give us as little Supergirl as possible, this title, or the beginning of this episode, makes a whole lot of sense. She flies into the DEO as Supergirl, and everybody's just like, there's nothing to do today. Go home, relax, do whatever you want. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I remember that one time when on The Flash where Barry had literally nothing to do and he was just sitting around, especially after a hiatus where we haven't had this show. The first thing I want to see is Supergirl being told, you've got nothing to do today. Just go be Kara. So, that's how this begins. So we see her at home, she's cooking. I will give it a point for being kind of clever and funny because she's reaching in to grab a plate and I'm like, oh, right, yeah, she can't feel the heat. I don't know, just the way they set it up was actually kind of humorous. But we see her cooking, and to be fair, part of the reason why that was kind of like, ooh, like I didn't want her to touch it, is because they really don't do a very good job of showing us that she has these powers. Case in point, Lena comes in, she's telling her that she wants to go see this ex-boyfriend that apparently she was working with some technology on. They go there, he's showing off all the nanobot stuff. Then afterwards, Kara sees a whistleblower and he's like, hey, come talk to me. They're sitting in his car as he's giving her information. All of these nanobots are flying to the car, and right as the car's about to blow up, Kara's like, wait, do you hear that? The drones, the little tiny drones flying around? You don't hear that? Huh. Boom! She can apparently only hear it right before it's about to kill somebody? Strange type of power to have. Because I thought for sure Kryptonians had just ultra hearing. So the sound of tens of thousands of little drones flying at a car, I can't hear that. Oh, but the little click as they're about to blow up the car, I pick up on that. Just in time for the car to blow up and be like, oh, crap, I suck. And the other funny thing about it is, you really look at this scene, it's just like, oh, well, maybe they're not making her hearing as sharp as possible. The very next scene after it returns from the commercial break is her going into Jimmy's office, talking to him, and all of a sudden Snapper Carr walks in, says he's got some information, tells her to leave. She leaves. She uses her super hearing to hear what Snapper has to say. Literally the next scene, super hearing. And then a couple scenes later, super hearing, once again, gone. Tens of thousands of little nanobots flying into a drain, coming out the vents, only hear it right before they're about to attack the people. You've got a superhero with superpowers. Use them. And not in a, oh, I'm going to snoop on these people. I'm going to listen in on what they have to say. No, use them to save people. What is one thing that made Superman so awesome? Whenever he flew up in the air, honestly, I know a lot of people didn't really like Superman Returns. One of the scenes that I loved in Superman Returns was whenever he flew up in the air and just stayed like in an orbit, I guess, just listening to everything, listening to what everybody has to say, listening to, okay, is there going to be some sort of thing happening, and all of a sudden he hears people in danger and he goes to save them. He's a hero. That's what he does. When have we ever seen her use her super hearing? To listen in on conversations, to snoop on people. Oh, what's Snapper got to say? Oh, what's that little bitch saying about me? Oh, I'm gonna listen in and see what she has to say. Ooh, I don't like her at all. Nanobots flying to kill people. No super hearing at all. It's bizarre. I'm totally shocked that they don't see this. This is simple stuff. You've got Supergirl sitting in a car with a whistleblower. She hears thousands of nanobots coming towards the car and doesn't do a damn thing until the car blows up, and she's like, oh, I heard him right then, right at the end. And don't get me wrong, I understand that we've seen before the super hearing can be overwhelming if they don't sort of focus it, but at the same time, they can still hear everything. They just know when to focus it and when to listen to something specifically. That doesn't mean that they turn off all other sounds. They can still hear it, they just focus away from it so they can't hear it as loud as they normally do. But that, a loud droning, should have caught her attention. But I digress. So, moving forward, there's a lot of stuff going on between Kara and Snapper, and then we see stuff between Lena and whatever his name was, the guy that ended up being the nanobots. For some reason, the show, once again, trying to invoke emotion that is just not there. Every scene between Lena and this guy has like this romantic kind of like, oh, isn't this sweet music playing? And what I find hilarious about that is we just saw all of his nanobots try to kill somebody. And you really want me to be like, oh, isn't this sweet? Like, they're so in love. Imagine a scene where we see... I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, just for instance, imagine there's this villain. Let's go over to the Flash for a second, because I like comparing the Flash to Supergirl because it's such a great show. So comparing it to Supergirl is like the comparisons are obvious. So let's just imagine there's a scene where imagine Barry's single and Iris is not in the picture. There's this girl who in the previous scene we just saw her go on a murder rampage and kill like 5 people. The next scene is her and Barry together. And instead of like this intense like holy crap, she's a murderer and Barry's with her right now, instead of that music playing, we've got like this like this soft romantic music playing. Would that fit at all? I mean, honestly, would that fit in the scene at all? No. Because all we could think about is, holy crap, she just killed people. Barry, run. The entire time that they're in these scenes between Lena and this guy, and we just saw his nanobots kill people, I'm like, Lena, run. And this music's playing, it's just like, guys, stay calm. Everything's okay. Look at them, they're in love. They just love each other. Isn't this just so amazing? And then all of a sudden, later in the episode, Kara and Mon-El go into his company. I'll talk about that scene in a second. And then they see that he injected himself with the nanobots. He is the nanobots. And they're just like, oh no. And all of a sudden, it flips over to Lena and this guy making out. And all of a sudden, the music's like, oh no, guys, this is bad. We thought he was good, and now he's not. Who thought he was good? Like, honestly, who thought he was good? And even in the end, when we find out he's not technically the bad guy in all of this, there's a woman who's controlling him. He still injected himself with the nanobots. He's still guilty in this. And yet this show, like the whole time, wants to be like, guys, feel sorry for him. I mean, look, yeah, he injected himself with the nanobots, but he's not the bad guy. Somebody is controlling him. Don't you feel sad for Lena? Don't you feel sad for her that she has to deal with this right now? No! I don't! You're stupid! Your emotions don't match up with what I'm seeing. Whenever Lena and the guy whose nanobots just killed somebody are together, you're playing this calming music. Whenever all of a sudden we find out that this guy is, oh no, he's full of nanobots, yeah, you're acting shocked when I'm like, I kind of figured. Whenever they're at the end, they're trying to make it feel like, oh no, Lena's about to lose him, she's about to kill him. I'm like, who cares? He's kind of responsible for this. He's not innocent in this either. So all of the emotions just don't match up, and it's very frustrating. On top of that, we go through this whole thing with Jimmy and Win just throughout most of this episode. I know I'm kind of flipping channels, but this show kind of flips channels. For some reason, they decide to focus on Win and Jimmy a lot in this episode, and honestly, the action mainly comes through Jimmy in this one. Like, that thing earlier where I was saying, Kara, you don't have anything to do, and that was how they began the episode. Well, later on, after she's hanging out with Lena a little bit, they flip over and Jimmy's stopping burglaries. And I'm like, oh, so she actually did have something to do. They're just letting Jimmy do it because we want our side characters to get more action than the superhero? Whatever, I'm moving on. So, for some reason in this one, they decide to bring Lyra in, and she wants to help out, but then there's this one moment where it's just a kid robbing a store because he's stupid, and Jimmy, instead of sending him to juvie or something, decides to let him go, and Lyra decides, no, I'm not letting him go, and tries to beat the hell out of him, and Jimmy's just like, how dare you, and then all of a sudden Wynn's like, I don't want you on the team anymore, and she freaks out, kind of proving why she shouldn't be on the team, and then it ends with she's on the team again, because decisions in the show just don't mean anything. I don't want to help you be a hero, be a vigilante. Actually, I kind of do. We need to tell Kara about this. Actually, we don't really have to. Dude, you need to stop being a vigilante. It's dangerous. I like the danger, too. How about this? Somebody make a decision. Stand by that decision. Just once. Just once, somebody actually decides something and don't go back on your word. Don't go back on what you just said. Don't decide at the end, oh, you know what? Never mind. I don't want that. That's too harsh. Kara, with Jimmy and Win, I don't think you guys should be a vigilante. I'm never going to support this. What was it? One episode later? You know what? You guys can do what you want. I'm going to support you in this now. Nobody has any conviction. Nobody really stands by what they believe, because you know what? At the end of the day, what the show is, it's just a way for us to have conflict that will be resolved by the end of the episode. Every single episode, there's a conflict, but it's resolved by the end. There's never any lasting conflict, because we know in life conflict doesn't last. It's just temporary. Oh, you two are having an argument? Don't worry, it'll be over soon. Tell that to all the divorced families. Tell that to people who haven't seen a friend in forever because there was a fight and they just never were able to make up because they're stubborn. The people in this show are the complete opposite of stubborn. They're wishy-washy. And it's pissing me off that I have to continue to see this. Every single episode, whenever something happens, midway through the episode, people are fighting, I know by the end of it, they'll be okay. How many times did Kara and Mon-El break up, but by the end of the episode, they're back together again? It's ridiculous. And it's not realistic at all. And I know that sounds weird talking about not being realistic in a superhero show, but I mean, be honest. What's the main focus of the show? The relationships. So, if you're not going to focus on the superhero aspect, you better handle relationships well. They don't. They treat them unrealistically. They have argument, problem fixed. Argument, problem fixed. Argument, problem fixed. That's all the show is. And never changes. So, let's talk about the climax, because this is the one that just, it's been giving me a migraine that won't go away. So I'm going to get it over with. So, Lena, because she's stupid, decides to go to the warehouse where she knows her ex-boyfriend is. Honestly, I don't know the guy's name. I want to say John just because it sounds right. She goes there and she's talking to him and she's confronting him with this information because Kara showed her the video of him injecting himself with the nanobots, and he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, you don't know what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden he gets turned off or whatever for a second, and all of a sudden Gia from Timeless, which why'd you have to end up on the show, Claudia? You're actually a good actress. You're really pretty, and you end up on this show that's just really crap. Why? Just stay on Timeless. That show is actually a good show. Stay on Timeless. Go do your thing over there. Be Gia. Be whatever your character is going to be in the second season, because that's where you need to stay focused. Anyway, she comes in and she's apparently been the one controlling John this whole time. And so then we get Supergirl comes in because they're about to apparently infect Lena with the nanobots. So she flies in, and the nanobots come out and attack Supergirl, and because she's the girl of steel, a ton of little nanobots manage to overpower her and like hang her up against a little device because they were kryptonite robots the whole time, or something that makes sense, and not just she was overpowered by tiny little robots that are apparently hurting her somehow. Like I said, migraine. So we then see, Gia and Lena fight it out a little bit. We have, not a very good fight scene. She's like punches Lena. She's like, "What? You didn't know I was a black belt?" She hits her, knocks her out. She's like, "What? You didn't know I was a Luther?" And then she's like talking to John. She's like, "John, I know you're in there." I'm like, "Please don't go this route. Please don't go this route. Please don't go this route." Thankfully, they don't go the route of, oh, he still is in there and he manages to fight against the robots. However, what doesn't make any sense to me is Lena steps on the little thing that's controlling him, so he's no longer being controlled by Gia. But that doesn't change that the robots are still attacking Supergirl. So, who's controlling the robots again? I want an answer. And I want a good answer. Because frankly, this show didn't answer it. Because you step on the thing controlling the guy who controls the robots, right? Or is he not controlling the robots at all? Because I kind of figured that's what it was. He said at one point there had to be kind of like a queen, like a bee mentality, because they're ripping off the bee robots from The Flash. Beth from The Walking Dead was whoever her character was. She was controlling all those little robots, and she was kind of like the queen bee, so she was the one in charge of the robots. Kind of a similar thing here, I thought, where it seemed like John was kind of like the queen. Kind of weird. So Gia, with her little controlling thing, was controlling him, who was controlling the robots. So you break that little controlling thing over John, he should be controlling the robots, which means shouldn't he be able to say, okay, stop attacking Supergirl? For some reason, that doesn't happen. So what do they have to do? Oh, they have to hack into the control thing and shut it down. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen to the guy who's completely made up of robots. He's going to die. Sure enough, even Gia stands up. She's like, if you do that, you'll kill him. Lena, like, elbows her in the face, which is kind of funny. But at the same time, because it's Gia, I'm just like, not really that funny. So, of course, she shuts it down. We're supposed to feel emotional, but I don't. She has this weird laughing cry, kind of like Tobey Maguire. Like, okay, you don't look sad, you look weird. And so that's how the action ends. And then, of course, there's a commercial break, and there's still like 10 minutes left in the episode because, of course, the climax happens where climax and then the downfall from all of it takes like an extra 10 minutes because the show takes forever. So Kara goes to help Lena kind of get over this, which she doesn't really seem that sad anyway. We see, like I said, Jimmy and Wynn decide to let Lara onto the team. We never really find out what happened to Gia, did she get arrested or whatnot. And then the episode ends on a bit of a cliffhanger where Mon-El's mother walks in to Lena's office and is like, oh, aren't you Lena Luthor? And she's like, oh no, she's here. They did say that Supergirl didn't have anything to do at the beginning of the episode, right? Which means the Daxamite ship must have left, right? How are you still here? I kind of figured if she was going to actually be on Earth that the Daxamite ship would need to be nearby, but the DEO is treating it like it's gone now, so what happened? How did you manage to make it to Earth without the DEO finding out? And while we're on that topic, can we just look at the fact that after the whole nanobot thing happened, actually I do want to talk about that scene in general because there's this little section of the show that just kind of really frustrated me that anyway, so Snapper Carr is going to interview this guy. Supergirl is outside listening in with the super hearing. Once again, not hearing the ton of nanobots flying at them. So they come out of the vent. She flies in, tackles Snapper to the ground. Not the other guy for some reason because he's an unimportant side character. So the nanobots go and destroy him, rip him to shreds, completely tear him apart. No blood or anything though because that would be too much for this little kid's show. And so the nanobots are flying back in at them. She uses her freeze breath to kind of freeze them all in place, and she takes Snapper out. Well, instead of going to the DEO for help, instead of going to Lena for help, instead of going to John to ask him what the hell's going on, she just goes home. You remember the time whenever Supergirl, like, actually tried to save the day? She actually tried to do stuff? Not anymore. Somebody just died. Honestly, what did she do after the guy's car blew up? She went straight to Jimmy. Because he's gonna help you. After this one guy gets torn to shreds and she manages to get Snapper out of there, she goes home. Now, granted, this does lead to, oh, Mon-El knows where Lena and John are because apparently she called and Mon-El was like, oh, I'll answer the phone for Kara. So this does end up going to a scene where they go to dinner with Lena and John. But, there's no real interrogation there. There's no real, hey, your nanobots are killing people there. They're just like, oh, so, how did you manage to get this problem solved? And not treating him at all like a bad guy, just like, hey, let's just ask him questions, because I'm sure he's innocent in all of this. So, just gonna wrap this up. Stupid, 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 stupid. That's about all I can say about this show, because there's so many problems, there's so many issues that just... You've either got issues with your main character where you're not... She's got these superpowers that you're not using effectively. Not to mention the fact that... just I keep remembering these scenes, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was stupid too. Whenever they go to John's workplace to find out about his nanobots, they decide to sneak in and Wynn pickpockets his little pass to get into his office because they couldn't just fly in? What it ends up being is they needed Wynn to do something because he's Kara's boyfriend, so he has to have some sort of point to the show now. And so instead of just having Supergirl fly into his office, like she probably normally would, they decide, hey, let's give Wynn something to do. And so they have him pickpocket the guy for his pass so they can break into his office. But how did you make it into the building in the first place? How were there no security cameras to follow you? How is there nothing like a fingerprint scanner for a guy who is extremely technologically gifted? You're seriously going to tell me that it just take his pass, and that's all you need? Yeah, okay. And his password ends up being like some sort of romantic thing that he just talked about. What are the odds? So, yeah, more things to complain about. I feel like I need to just end this review before I remember something else and go on another rant. But, I mean, all in all, it's just... really... why? I'm able to pick out so many problems. And honestly, to be fair, I'm not really paying full attention to the show. You know, like some shows, I have to turn off everything. I have to, the phone's off, other stuff is off. Nothing else is playing at all. I'm just like, I gotta focus so I can pay attention to what's going on, because if I miss something, I miss something. This show, it's like, I don't even really have to pay attention. I don't really have to watch. I can just listen to what's going on and kind of get a gist of what's happening. Now, did I do that today? No, for the most part, I did kind of pay attention. I had my phone out a little bit when things got boring because they did a lot. But, I mean, for the most part, I watched and look at all I picked up. Look at all the problems I found. Look at everything that the show is doing wrong that for some reason they can't seem to figure it out themselves. So, yeah, I don't really have much else to say, but this show's stupid. And it's not getting any better. If anything, it's getting worse. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you not like about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Future Supergirl reviews. I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.